What's up guys, it's Flamon from Flamon Miniatures, and today I would like to present to you a video tutorial on which I will work on painting bones of the skeleton warrior. On the last video tutorial I presented to you how to paint this sword, and I hope you enjoyed it. And today we will work on the bones, just like I said. So first I would start with painting the bones with burnt umber paint. And I will paint them almost entirely. Okay, I won't paint the... I'm not sure how much I will paint of this skeleton, but let's start with painting his hand, because this is one of the details that look more interesting than the others. Or, I don't know, actually everything looks very interesting, so I don't know. Okay, so now when I'm painting these bones, I want to leave a bit of black paint here and there in the places that are supposed to be hidden in the deepest shadow. So I'm not painting them entirely. I also like to leave black color on the edges. On places like between the shield and the hand, in order to make them more visible. And here's the thing, that we look on this skeleton under this angle, and while all of the bones are of course have their color, you need to remember that some of them are in bigger shadow and some of them are in smaller shadow. So now what I will do is that I move my miniature like this, and I paint just this side of the bones, leaving black color below them, because they're supposed to be in the deepest shadow. Now I gently mark his fingers. In the same way, leaving black color underneath them. Paint just the top part of the bone. Okay, let me get my glove. Okay, now I'm more professional. Okay, so now I will do the same thing with the rib cage. Okay, keep in mind to leave black. Try to avoid painting the space between the ribs. You can also, look, when you're painting details like this, you can use side of your brush. Thanks to this, it won't sink. It won't, if you were painting details like this with the side of your brush, it won't get into these elements that are deeper in concave areas. This is dark pale brown paint that is very useful for elements that's supposed to be pale as well. Okay, I'm still working with the side of my brush. Yikes. Okay, sometimes you need to work with the tip as well. Okay. Now once again, when I'm painting these bones, I want to leave black base color between them untouched. Not much to explain here. Okay. Now, bones in his wrist are a bit complicated because you need to leave black color between these bones in order to make them visible. The thing is that if you're painting small miniature, you need to create stronger contrast in order to make all of the details visible. The bigger miniature, the smaller contrast you can use. But this is rather small miniature, so we have to use a lot of black color in order to create contrast. Otherwise, you can use very bright colors like white, but you need to somehow create this contrast. It's really necessary to make the miniature look good. And here I should, okay, I made it bad. I will later simply paint these shadows with black paint when the whole finger will be painted. Okay, we have this and this. Most definitely this bone can be painted entirely because it's facing the sun. Let's say it's facing sun. Yeah, skeletons are a bit complicated because there is a lot of empty spaces on skeletons, so it's hard to sculpt them and to paint them. But we will see what we can do. So that's why we need to leave black color, just represents shadow, while we would see more things that are behind it in reality. Okay, so I guess I have to paint the legs too. Okay, so they are in a bit bigger shadow than the rest of the details. Like, look, when we are looking on this guy, like this, then you can clearly see that these bones would be in very big shadow. That's why I will right now paint just this detail and this one. Okay, this bone would be dark, but not as dark as the frontal side of the leg. Okay, so I would highlight side of it. Okay, so I would paint it like this, so you can see it looks like it is in much deeper shadow, what is true. This bone is not in such a big shadow, so I paint it entirely. Okay, now bones on the foot. The same thing that happened with the wrist, so I need to be careful to leave this black paint between these bones. Okay. 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 Now his pelvis. Yeah, I'm very impressed with how these skeletons look. I think Games Workshop got as close to really perfect skeleton as it is possible, with all these spaces between the bones. They look very realistic. I like it a lot. Okay. Now here. Obviously this bone will be very bright because it's not hidden in shadow casted by any other detail. Okay, now this part of the bone is hidden in the shadow again, so I will just paint a highlight in here. But the foot can be once again much brighter. Okay, this foot looks much worse than the first one. Okay, it didn't work how I intended it to work. Because you can see here we have the spaces between the toes. And here they are not very visible, but this foot is look a bit different than the first one. So the outcome is different too. I think I will stop in here. I will paint his head in the next video. Okay, so this is start, this is the beginning, this is how it looks now. So as you can see, this bone is in a shadow because the leg is in position where the leg is casting shadow. So this bone is in shaded area. Here is similar situation, but the sword is casting shadow, so it will also be darker. And yeah, so this is this step. Okay, now we need to highlight these bones. Yeah, so we need to decide where to place the reflections and which colors to use. I use usually one of these two paints for this task. I either use tan earth or stone gray. Tan earth is a very beige color and stone gray is like a little bit greenish. It looks like using this color would make these bones look cleaner and this would make them look a bit older. I think I will go with stone gray. And I will simply mix it with burnt umber. Okay, but first I will paint places where I think that this skeleton should be the brightest. So these are places that are most efficiently facing the source of light, which I presented in previous videos. I like to come from here. So now we need to imagine how it would work. So first of all, obviously elements like this part of the bone is rounded, so you need to also make the light that goes on it rounded. Then the shape is like this, so we follow the shape of the bone, and once again it's rounded in this part, so we need to follow this shape as well. Now these bones are facing the source of light like entirely with this side, so we paint them. Of course this is just a sketch right now, this will look better later, so don't worry. Now reflection in here. Okay, now these parts of the bones are in more shaded areas, but we can see these parts too, so we need to highlight them, these edges. Okay, a little bit here and in here. There's not much to explain right now, because now I'm just using this, what I just told you. I'm thinking which details are facing the sun the best. Okay, I don't see how exactly these bones are like. So I will just paint it like this. I can also see how they are sculpted. They are sculpted like one piece. So I have to imagine this. You can always just Google how these bones look and follow the pictures from the internet. Yeah, it shouldn't look like this. I made a mess. Damn it. I had too much paint on my brush. I hate this, how this look. I need to repaint this right now. Okay, but we still have bones in the back. I forgot that. Well, this is just one finger. Okay, but the hand goes also in here. And while this is sculpted like one detail, I can always paint it like there are two separate details. It's basically creating a freehand, sort of, but it makes it look better. Okay. Okay, so once again, sun is coming from here. So these parts of the bones are supposed to be brighter and the bottom parts darker. That's how I painted it this way. Now it's all about imagining exactly where the light would reflect on the other details. It's easy in here. It will be most problematic on the rib cage, but you need to keep in mind one very important thing, that you don't have to make it perfect. You just are supposed to enjoy the process and make it look nice. So don't go too crazy over this like I do. Just enjoy the process. Okay, if I missed this bone somehow. Okay, so no reflections in here. Now when I have bones like this, details like this in any place, uh, in order to make it look nice, while this is supposed to be entirely bright, I want to paint it entirely bright, because things look better when they have shadows around them. That's why I will paint frontal side of this bone, leave shadows around it, and I will later create smooth transitions between these shadows to this reflection in here, and this will make it look very good. Okay, now let's go with the rib cage. So once again, in one hand I want to imagine where these reflections would go, and once again source of light is in here, so these details that are the closest to this will be the brightest, of course. In this case, most part of this rib cage will be very bright. There will be differences like between being very bright and being even brighter. I mean reflections of light that I will paint in the next steps. But on details that are facing source of light like this, big deeper shadows are not appearing, so it's more logical to paint them almost entirely with bright paint, and then eventually create contrast by creating even brighter reflections. As you can see, I lost my precision a lot. I slipped a few times. Now, as you can see, shape is changing a little bit, and now top edges of the ribs are facing the source of light. So I will leave a bit of these ribs unpainted. Okay. Now there are a few details that are not problematic, like this in here, where we are just painting the edge facing the source of light. The same thing goes in here. Now there's okay, first let's paint this. It's very useful to know anything about anatomy when you're painting things like this, but you can always Google things and just see how a real skeleton looks like, and then it can be very helpful with painting details like this. Now is this bone. Remember that this is not non-metallic, this is bone, this is very matte surface, so we paint it in a different way than, for example, the sword. So we need to make it brighter at the top and getting darker the further to the shaded area it goes, without reflections on it. Now these parts of the bones are facing the source of light with the top part, so we have to paint them a bit differently. You need to be precise for this step. Okay. I think that in this case it will be easier if I will paint other bones first, in order to exactly feel how the light works on the skeleton. Of course, it would be perfect to leave a little bit of the base color on the sides of these reflections that I paint right now, but it's not easy. So yeah, these bones have to be very bright because they are facing the sun, the source of light with very big surface. Okay, now uh, here I need to paint top parts of the ribs. Okay, except for one foot. Hey, why I don't have focus? Except for one foot, we have now colors in the right places. Okay, so in a moment I will start creating smooth transitions on them. Okay, so now all the bones are prepared, and I can do a thing that is most important in my style of painting. So I will now mix mid-tone that I will use for creating smooth color transitions on the bones, and thanks to this, the sketch will become more finished painting. So first I will put a bit of burnt umber to the stone gray, and I will mix it with this tool. I presented it many times, and I guess it's called clay or color shaper. Okay, it's rubber in the end, and it's better to mix your paints with tools like this, because thanks to that your brush will live much longer. And as you know, it's not easy. It's not easy to paint when tip of your brush is not working properly. So it's important to protect them. So I will do now the same thing that I did on my previous video. So I take a bit of paint on my brush, I remove a bit of it in a piece of paper, and now I will paint tiny stripes around these bright colors that I just presented. Stripes and dots, just like on works of impressionists. And because this is a skeleton, I don't have to create super smooth transitions, so it will go much faster. But like I said in my previous videos, when it comes to my techniques, creating these smooth transitions is taking like half the time I spend on miniature. Okay, so as you can see, I'm painting tiny dots and stripes on the edges, on the borders of these bright areas. I'm painting a little bit on the darker area, on a little bit on the brighter area, and it becomes smooth. Transitions became blurry and smooth. And I'm working with just the tip of my brush. It's the same technique that is being used for painting with color pencils or just drawing with pencils. So if you want to try this technique, I would also recommend you to try to draw something with a pencil and try to create shadow that goes from stronger to brighter, more delicate with your pencil, because this is the same technique. If you barely scratch the surface of the miniature with the tip of your brush soaked in paint, then you are leaving very small amount of paint on it, and this allows you to make fast movements, make lots of them, and the outcome is a smooth transition. I much prefer to paint it this way because I have great control over paint, and yeah, and that's what I do. It's much easier to paint skeletons like this because they are supposed to be worn out, worn off, worn out, worn, uh, dirty, old. So you don't have to create super smooth transitions with my technique, which I use for everything I paint. So it's much easier than painting nice new reflective armor or sword on a space marine. It's much easier this way. And this technique has its similarities to dry brush technique, because with time and this the paint on the tip of your brush becomes a bit more dry, but it still works, so in a way it's similar. Okay, and here I can make these bones a bit darker in a few places. Remember that in the last step I will highlight them in a few places, so it's not very problematic that they are so bright right now. Okay, so you see what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So now I will speed up the video to save your time. Okay, so I finally blended this element that's, oh, most of them. So uh, let me just talk to you about something when I just noticed these details. So most of these areas are now blended. As you can see, it looks very easy on a video, I imagine, especially on a video that is speed up. But I assure you that once you get comfortable with this technique, it really is easy. It's just time consuming. And now when I blended all of these places, there are a few in which it's good to make a few highlights again with this stone gray. But I won't spend much time on it because the video would be very long, and I promised to myself that I won't try to be as perfection as to create such perfection as I always try, and it's hard for me. But okay, let's say that I see so many places that I would like to change just a little bit, but I will leave it like this because I will never finish it in other way. So now I will take silver gray and I will paint the final highlights on the bones with it. The thing is that you need to keep in mind that there is a giant difference between bone and blade of a sword, and it has to be painted in a much different way. So there has to be much smaller contrast on bones, but it still needs its highlights. So now I will do it in the same way how I was blending layers right now. So I diluted a little bit the paint with the water that I already had on my brush and that is on my wet palette. And with this I will make exactly the same thing, like scratch here, dot there, and this will make a few the details brighter. So see, now I'm not painting any layers, I'm just trying to make a few details a bit brighter. And this is very important now for highlighting these bones in his wrist and on his hands. It's very important because this will make them more visible. Now, of course, the middle of this bone. You don't have to be very precise, because if you paint with scratches and dots, it will create a pattern on the surface of the bone that will make it more realistic. This is not glossy metal, this is bone, so it's supposed to have a structure on it. Okay, so I think that uh, okay, so I think that this is done. Okay, this is the eye position. Okay, and this is how the bones look now. But this is the right angle to look at it, or this. Okay, he looks more interesting like this. Okay, so I think it's done for today. I plan to make this miniature in more relaxed way, but as you can see, it's hard for me to leave some things not blended. I have to have everything blended perfectly on my miniatures. So this is how it looks, but I think that he looks pretty nice. Of course, I will make a few more things on this guy. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Stay with me for more and see you on the next one. Bye!